the minutes of the council meeting held on the 8th of July 21 be approved as a correct record.
Happy to propose those, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Happy to second those, Madam Mayor.
I didn't even have to ask. Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment? Councillor Fayle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just say firstly that the minutes are actually much improved with the inclusion of additional detail as to the questions asked and answers given. I hope this continues. However, there are 4 factual amendments required which should be in front of you, and I would like to propose those 4 amendments you should have, hopefully. Thank you.
Have you got a second? The amendments are factual.
Yeah, the amendments are acceptable in terms because you're asking for a factual correction, so they are acceptable as a proposed amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So can we vote on those now? Oh, have you got a second?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second that amendment.
Lorraine, was she here?
No, Madam Mayor, but I have listened to the council meeting.
It has to be somebody that's in the chamber on that day.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Yes?
As Councillor Beaver said, you can now listen to the meeting recording. So non-physical attendees are in a position to comment, propose, second and yes, even vote on the state of the minutes. I can't see a problem. The current predicament was brought about by not thinking through the imposition of half councils, and although I made the efforts for the council to try to correct this problem, it's a problem of its own making. In terms of the point of order, could I ask what paragraph in the Constitution says proposers or seconders need to have been present at the previous meeting?
Councillor Fayle, I'll just ask for advice.
We could root through the Constitution if we've got time, but actually my recollection is that you must be present at the meeting to either vote on or propose the amendments. So, as you know, Councillor Fayle, when members vote on the amendment, Madam Mayor will ask all those who are present can vote on the minutes, which would apply to any proposed amendment as well. And you know very well that that is procedurally correct. And notice that Councillor Beavers is shaking her head in agreement with me. And now she's saying no, she's not, but she was before. So I'm afraid if you have another seconder who was present at that meeting, then then your proposed amendments can be discussed.
Point of order, I actually haven't, I've looked through the Constitution myself. I can't find the paragraph where it states that. I was expecting to see that it was there, by the way, but obviously things have changed in this half council setup, so only half the councillors available to be here. So I think it needs some special rules to be put in place to allow that to happen. But if that isn't the case, then what I would say under part 4.01 of the Constitution, paragraph 15, subparagraph N, can I propose that this, whatever rule you're saying is actually there, which I don't believe is there, can I suggest that that's temporarily suspended, please? Well, anybody can second that. Councillor Beavers, would you like to second that?
Can I second that? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we need to now vote on the proposal to suspend.
Can I help out here?
You may.
It's going to be a long night, especially now that these are working as well. Lorraine, could you take yours off, please?
Sorry, Gary.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and help out here, Madam Mayor, because I knew what Councillor Fayle was proposing, and I've looked at it and I've thought about it. And this is my proposal regarding the minutes. First of all, I don't feel that if you sit down and listen to the minutes that you could second it, you really should be here. However, we'll put that on one side. Point 1, Councillor Sturzaker was present at the meeting, so that will be accepted. If we then go to point 2, the planning portfolio holder, Councillor Sturzaker's name should be included alongside that of Councillor Atkins, and was it Councillor Longton? I'm trying to do that from memory. But the rest of the sentence should not be included. And number 4, item 14, I will accept that as well. I won't accept number 3. Now, if that's acceptable to Councillor Fail, he's got half of what he wants. We can then move on the minutes and we can move on with the meeting for the evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just procedurally, so we've had an alternative amendment, so is there a seconder for what the leader's just proposed?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Fail, where are we now?
Well,
We'll wait.
the ball's in your court because you've just accepted an amendment and it's been seconded, so presumably there's a vote on that.
Right, councillors, can we have a vote on that, please? Do you want to say? On what day?
Sorry, to make it clear, what you're asking for a vote on is what Councillor Henderson has put forward, is that right?
Yeah.
Because obviously yours was not seconded in terms of your amendments.
Did you hold-
So
did you
there is an
hold-
alternative. There is an alternative that's been put forward by Councillor Henderson, which has been seconded by Councillor Vincent, who was present at that meeting. So only members who were present at that meeting can vote on the proposed amendments. Thank you.
So those in favour? If you were present at that meeting, those in... Holly, you can't. You're not part of this, love.
Right. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favour.
Is there anybody against? Any abstentions? No? Those amended minutes are approved. Thank goodness for that. Right, so we'll now move on to item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members or officers have any interest to declare on any items included on the agenda? No? Happy to move on? Item 4, announcements. There are 3 announcements this evening. I understand the leader wishes to make the first of these.
I want to make an announcement.
Holly, I'm sorry, you can't. You're not
I
in.
do need to make
You
an
do.
announcement.
Excuse me, Holly, you're only observing this evening. You can't make any comment, take part, you can only observe. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to sit down.
We'll have to leave the chamber.
No, I'm going to have to sit down then.
Holly, you need to leave the
No.
chamber.
No.
You need to leave the chamber,
I'm
Holly.
not going to leave. Okay then, well I want something recording then, I'll leave.
Just ask you to leave, please. On
Holly,
behalf
please will
of
you
Labour
leave the
Group,
chamber?
please
I'm
ask
asking you to leave. I'm sorry, but you're not on this.
Councillor Swales, you're quite welcome to sit in the public gallery.
But I want to make an announcement.
No, you know what the procedures are in terms of this part of the agenda. The only members that can make announcements are the Madam Mayor, Deputy, the leader of the council, or myself in this part of the meeting. So if you want to take a seat in the public gallery and listen, that's absolutely fine. But apart from that, you cannot take part in the meeting because actually you're sitting as a member of the public.
Okay, well can somebody else make the announcement on my behalf then?
I'm sorry, Holly, will you take a seat? I can follow that. Thank you. Councillor Henderson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On Saturday, I attended the Make a Difference Awards at the Winter Gardens at Blackpool. Other leaders from across Lancashire were present, and also, believe it or not, the leader of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. It was an absolutely excellent afternoon. It was one to say thank you to people and what they had done throughout COVID so far to help out throughout Lancashire. And one of the awards that I was particularly interested in was the Community Hero Award. There were lots of people put forward for all of these awards, and there was quite a few of them. And then it came down to the last 4 in each category. And in the Community Hero Award, Fleetwood Together, they were nominated. And for those of you that don't actually know about Fleetwood Together, prior to lockdown, it was an umbrella group comprising a range of organisations, including the town's churches, Westview Community Association, Fleetwood Town Community Trust, Fleetwood Town Council, Fleetwood Food Bank, Mustard Seed Group, and supported by Wyre Borough Council. As a council, we were really pleased to work in partnership with Fleetwood Together, and we made Marine Hall available to them as well. And they didn't concentrate just on Fleetwood, but they went throughout Wyre, doing whatever was required, delivering food parcels and so on and so forth. And so it was absolutely superb when Fleetwood Together actually won. It was really, really good. There were 3 members of them there, and I wanted to go up and have a word with them and say well done, but it just ended up with, they were having lots of photographs taken. You couldn't really get near them, but it was a superb afternoon for everybody, but it was really great for Fleetwood Together. And I felt a little bit sorry on the Pride of Lancashire Award, because father and son karaoke, they got through to the finals as well, but unfortunately they didn't get the big prize, but it was still superb to see them. So that's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I would just like to say that I've held a couple of events now, and councillors are booking on my events but not turning up. That will take money out of my pot because I have to pay for the food up front. So to all councillors, and I'll send an email out to the ones that are not present tonight, I've had some donations tonight as well, but if you do book an event, come along, please, if you're not going to go, warn me at least a week before, because when I book the food I have to pay for it, so then I'm just giving my money away. So thank you for that. Councillor Ballard, do you want to make all the announcements on the events?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like to say that there will be a dog show this Sunday at 12 o'clock at North Drive Park, Cleveland. I'm glad I'm not going to be voting on it because some dogs are better looking than other dogs.
Well, you might be.
Well, possibly if I enter I won't go to that. I'll keep that one off. The next announcement is the Clay Opener has had to change its date. It's now going to be the 13th of October at the Victoria Road East. The cost is £20 a head, and the maximum we can hold there is 42. And also the cost of the Mayor's Ball will be announced. It hasn't been ratified yet on the costings, but that is now going to be at the Marine Hall on the 1st of December. So all those councillors who are not present, could you please pass on to your fellow councillors those updates?
Thank you. Moving on to the serious business now. So we have got item 5, public questions or statements. However, there have been no questions from the public this evening. So we'll now move on to item 6, questions on notice from councillors. However, there have been no questions on notice from councillors. So we'll now move on to item 7, which is executive reports. First, the report of the Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. As they will see, there are just 2, and they are going to end up as 2 brief updates at 3 and 4. Lancashire leaders. I know we can all keep going back about COVID and how it's affected this, that and the other, and you can't have these meetings, you can't do this, you can't do that, and everything's falling apart. And we are now in a position of realistically trying to get back with the serious work that we were doing about 18 months ago. Regarding the Lancashire leaders, the district leaders met immediately before the Lancashire leaders meeting as usual. We generally have quite a lot to discuss, asking each other how things are going. Very simple ones. What are you doing regarding council meetings? Everybody is slowly but surely getting back to full council meetings. They are using technology, they're using hybrid, which is very good, which is something that we will possibly look at. A brief explanation is that Chorley Council, for one, work on the basis of everybody's expected back. If you don't feel happy with that, wear a mask. If you don't feel happy with that and you don't want to be in the room, they have set up another room that has got virtual TVs in there. They can take part in the meeting. But when it comes to a vote, as everybody should know, you have to vote in person in the council chamber. So what they do is when it comes to the vote, they all have to come into the council chamber and then they take a vote and then they move back into the committee room where they were before and the council continues. And I'm informed that it's working. So it's a path that we could look at when we come round to our next full council meeting, if necessary, in October, but we'll have to look and see how things work from there. And the other thing also on the district leaders was that all leaders, Labour and Conservative and split districts, all agreed that Lancashire leaders should reconvene and we should pick up where we were before. We went into the Lancashire leaders meeting. Literally, we just had the discussion regarding the Greater Lancashire Plan and the possible county deals. It was around those, and again, it was picking up on what's been going on. So that was the Lancashire leaders. Blackpool filed Wyre Economic Prosperity Board. We were supposed to get a briefing from the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership. Unfortunately, they got problems within themselves and it's had to be deferred until the next meeting. So we were left with just a briefing from Scott Butterfield, who is the Strategy, Policy and Research Manager at Blackpool Council. Mr. Butterfield went through carbon emissions on the Fylde Coast because it's carbon emissions, it's climate change, it's really taking centre stage on a lot of discussions. One of the things that came out of there was that carbon emissions, we're a bit naughty on them, Fylde are a bit naughty on them, Blackpool aren't too bad, yeah, I'm there, Madam Mayor, I'm there. And it was quite obviously, it was a travel to work, and that really came out of that one. So that was it, Madam Mayor. I'll take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to your red lines outlined at paragraph 2.8 and your opposition to the imposition of a unitary authority, the Labour Group welcomed that, as there are many concerns over the single option unitary authority set up put forward in 2020. Whether it be those proposals or the latest options for a combined authority, residents and councillors must be consulted. Both residents and councillors must be allowed to determine whether the specific aims of improving democratic engagement and handing power back to people and places can be achieved by whatever option or options are put to them. Accountability must be improved, not made worse. Priority 2 refers to a clear and simplified governance structure for Lancashire leaders, including authority for decision making. It says Lancashire leaders need a governance structure that includes decision-making powers to ensure effective and timely decisions can be made without having to refer back to the individual authority's decision-making process. Can you confirm to members what you mean by this? Are you saying that there should be no local democratic accountability?
You better stop the clock on this one, Madam Mayor. Okay, as I've outlined before to this council, that I go along to the Lancashire Leaders meeting and I sit down there as the representative for Wyre Borough Council, and that all things that are said there, decisions that are made that require to come back to council, I will bring them back to council. I've always stated that. I can make decisions whilst I am sitting there on behalf of Wyre Borough, as a lot of other leaders can also make the same decision. Some of the leaders can't make those decisions. They have to take them back to their council and go through a real raft of paperwork to try to get to what possibly could have been a very simple answer at first. So I actually do sit there and I listen to everything and I work on the basis of, is this acceptable or is this not acceptable? That's the first part about it. And then I work on the basis of, do I take this back to full council or not? If it's a decision, a serious decision, that will affect Wyre Council, I will bring it back here. If it needs a leader's report, it'll go down into a leader's report. I have said before, I will keep everybody abreast of what's going on. There's lots and lots of conversation throughout all the leaders, and realistically, everything that is discussed, it could be really minuscule as such, and if I were to bring back everything, then I'd start singing to that tune that Lynn was just on about. And again, I'd start singing to it. God, blimey. It's been a lousy day today. It really has. So, to answer the bottom line of your question, Rob, is that, when it comes to a really serious decision that will affect the people of Wyre, it will be brought back here. And to take your first point about the unitary, I had already stated before that unitary, realistically, was the last thing that I would want to look at. But it would be looked at alongside all the other leaders in Lancashire as well. It's not just one leader saying, I want unitary. Because believe it or not, there are one or two out there that say, I want unitary. But there are more people out there that say, no, we can do this a better way than going down that road. That's your answer.
Councillor Cropper.
Could the leader please explain a little more about the Greater Lancashire Plan and how it fits with the proposed county deals?
Yeah. The Greater Lancashire Plan was put together because Lancashire leaders could not agree a way forward regarding the unitary, regarding combined authority. But as Lancashire, there was pressure being put upon us to show a unified front. So we decided that we would put together a paper, a programme of works, which is the Greater Lancashire Plan. And it's got themes within it. I sit on climate change and environment. And we work on those themes and we all agree together. And then once that is agreed, we will then move forward on it. And that shows the government that we can actually work together. That is the whole point of the Greater Lancashire Plan. So we stay as individuals, but we all put into the same pot. The county deals have come across, it's been mentioned a little bit here and a little bit there, and the county deals, it would appear at the moment that the government are saying you don't need to move into a unitary, you don't need to go into a combined authority, you don't have to have an elected mayor, all things that really Lancashire leaders didn't want. But the county deal will be Lancashire again talking to the government, outlining what we want for Lancashire, infrastructure, education, so on and so forth. And the Greater Lancashire Plan will just morph into the county deals. That's as best as I can explain it at the moment.
Councillor Beavers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Henderson. So the council implements a half-council system without thinking through the impact of the 6-month attendance rule, all the practicalities of how members should approve minutes or make amendments to the previous minutes. This council is dictating that only half the number should be present at council meetings, yet it doesn't think it is appropriate to ensure that there is no undue impact. It is a disgrace that the 6-month rule applies when we are on half council meetings. How can this council tell councillors we can't all attend, then in the same breath tell us we could be removed from our councillors' positions for not attending? There seems to be no requirement within the Constitution for the proposer or the seconder of minutes to have been present at the previous meeting, so why insist on it? It might have been reasonable in normal circumstances, but whilst... Are you listening or talking?
We're listening.
Thank you,
actually,
Michael.
Lorraine, because we could multitask.
But whilst this council inflicts half numbers on us, it isn't. And in terms of voting, if the groups are rotating attendance, you could have the ridiculous situation whereby a group cannot vote on the minutes. This is despite the Constitution not mentioning that only those present at the meeting can vote on any proposed amendment, and despite absent councillors having the ability to listen to the recordings of the meeting. In summary, the current half-council setup is shambolic, so can I ask the leader to sort out the unnecessary and antagonistic, I can't say that, I could be for, problems it is causing or could result in. Thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, we actually work to the Local Government Act 1974. That's the basis of what we have to work to. But the involvement that I've had so far in these meetings, these part-time ones, and remember, it is the Chief Executive that calls the meetings. I am the leader of the council, but this little team behind me, they're the ones that lay down the groundwork. But I get involved in that groundwork, and I have put my 10 pence in as well. So those that can't come to the meeting, as far as I'm aware, are just marked down as apologies. The 6-month part, I believe, doesn't kick in on that. But if you want to take it even further, it's not your 6 months just coming here for full council, it's your 6 months for turning up at other meetings as well. So if you turn up at your committee meetings, you're within your 6 months. So you can forget the 6-month routine. If you're at committee meetings, you are appearing. So that's that part that to me is sorted out. As to rotating, it's entirely up to me and say, Rob, who turns up out of the party? It's not a football team. It's not rotating your best players for the day. The ones out of my group that are here today, they haven't attended the previous 2 meetings. I've kept track of who has, and I want to give them all the chance to come to full council. If we in October are on a reduced meeting again, you'll most likely not see these faces. I will bring in some more, or I might mix and match it, and Rob can do exactly the same. So hopefully come October your statement that you've just made actually won't be necessary.
I'm just going to bring the leader in.
No, I am the
The
leader.
Chief Executive.
Freudian slip.
Freudian slip.
Very Freudian.
Thank you for that promotion. Just to try and help, if members recall, we did have a report where we waived this, but that ended on the 13th of May 21. But actually, it doesn't just apply to the meetings of full council attendance. It's all the formal committees, all the informal meetings, i.e. task groups, working groups, etc. And so Democratic Services will keep a record of some members who are on working groups, who are on committees, who have not actually attended for approaching 6 months. So this is not, with the greatest respect, this is not the key meeting where attendance is monitored. It's right across the council for all its meetings. and Democratic Service are doing a fantastic job in alerting members who are approaching not attending any form of meeting for that 6-month period. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So that concludes the consideration of the leader's report. You've got your job back. So, item B, Resources Portfolio Holder. Councillor Michael Vincent, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, before members, everything's come in very quickly on that last point as well. Somebody would have to call by-election and we just wouldn't do it, so it's irrelevant.
And I will state that the last one I let you go over the 10 minutes for your question. This time we will be sticking to it. I've got a stopwatch. So we'll start off with Councillor McKay, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a comment really. A huge thank you to Claire and the accounts team for getting the financial statements prepared. I think everyone would agree with me in such a difficult year for Claire and the team to have worked to such a tight deadline again. Bear in mind the accounts year only ended in March and the accounts were turned around by July. It's absolutely incredible. And not only that, the accounts team managed to work with staff isolating, with staff being deployed to other areas of the council, and also administrating legislation coming in from government on a daily basis in respect of COVID grants for residents and businesses alike. We had such a quick turnaround of money coming into this council and going back out to the people who needed it. And I think the team need us to show our appreciation for that. We have such a strong accounts team. They not only do the statutory work, they're constantly looking forward to create opportunities for this council, opportunities to go for bids, for grants, opportunities to work more efficiently, to work more economically, to use our assets better. All these things underpin why this council is so successful. And I think sometimes finance can be the unsung hero here. There's no big headlines there. Claire and the team just get the job done, but they do it incredibly well. So I'd like that to be noted. Thank you.
Councillor George.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the last 2.5 years, both Garstang and Fleetwood Tourist Information Centres have had issues with the computer systems. Can you confirm that they'll be fixed without delay? And also, can you please confirm that the telephone and internet system at Marine Hall will be dealt with as a matter of urgency?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll give you an answer in two parts, Councillor George. Fleetwood and the Marine Hall in particular have just had an infrastructure upgrade. There's been a few teething problems with the card machines and things, which I think there's been some complaints about, but I'm sure they're now resolved. So the Wi-Fi and infrastructure available at the Marine Hall now should be really up to scratch. If it's not, certainly let us know. Garstang isn't quite as far advanced as that. I know that there is a task group that have looked at tourism and tourist information and such, and that they are to bring forward recommendations. We'll certainly look at those and perhaps look at what we need to do in Garstang because it hasn't had the same upgrades as Fleetwood.
That concludes the consideration of the Resources Portfolio Holders Report. We will now move on to item C, Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holder. Councillor Bridge, would you please introduce your report?
The report's before you. If you have any questions, or can I just say, rather like last month, I went for a walk in Fleetwood today. Marine Gardens looking fantastic, the Mount looking great. The Mount was in the Gazette today for a wedding, and there's even a ukulele band on in the Marine Gardens today, which was made my day, I can tell you.
Something like ukuleles.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Bridge? I believe it's Councillor O'Neill first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As in your report, Councillor Bridge, there is lots to be cheerful about. I'd like to take an opportunity, please, to give mention to John Bettle for his commitment to tackling fly tipping, and also to Sandra Byrne for her hard work and enthusiasm in keeping our streets clean. Their efforts are very much appreciated, thank you. I do think, however, it's a little contradictory to be encouraging cleaning up your alley when for the whole summer our roads, pavements and alleys have been overgrown with weeds. I've noticed that they've been treated in the last week or so, just prior to them dying off naturally. There are many that are against the use of certain chemicals, but we could at least try and use them at the correct time. I feel perhaps September's a touch late. Also, the clock at Ash Street's been laying for over 2 months now. It's the little things. And in my ward, Councillor Bridge, there's an ongoing wrangle over fly tipping in the alley of a gated community, which has left many lifelong residents completely frustrated and distressed. It became so bad in December that with signs of infestation in a number of areas in the alley, I paid to have it cleared myself from my members' allowance, money that usually goes to local charities. This was with the understanding that officers were following up, but until now nothing's been done. Would Councillor Bridge be agreeable to looking further into this matter if I supply him with the full information outside of this meeting? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. Any information anybody has about fly tipping, etc., please just pass it on and we will see what we can sort out. I'll never tire of agreeing with people about what a fantastic workforce Wyre has. You know, they're professional, they're committed, they go way over and beyond. With regard to the weeds, we spray twice a year. Obviously, we can't do every road on the same day. More than twice a year is just not cost effective. And this year, apparently, the weather we've had has meant that, I mean, rather like in my garden, everything's just grown like bilio, like topsy, I should say. So, unfortunately, that's why the weeds have been growing, because it's been like a perfect weather for them to go. But we do spray twice. We're very careful on the chemicals we use. We have looked into it. In fact, that was the first question I had when I took over this portfolio, was about the chemicals that we used for spraying. We just got to try and keep on top of it and do our best. With regards to fly tipping, if you send me that information, I will get straight on to it. Thank you for your confidence in staff.
Councillor Matthew Hinton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment really, in regards to item 3 and the obviously delays that you had over the summer with some bins not being collected, particularly in the Fleetwood area. Thankfully, it didn't affect my property myself, but it did affect those around me. And in particular, on one of the days in question, I was taking a Fleetwood taxi and the cab driver hadn't had his picked up. And he mentioned it. I thought it was going to be a rant against Wyre, and I was going to have a 10-minute talk with him, but it turns out he already knew the reason. He understood it, because obviously everybody understands these things in COVID. He was frustrated, but he was actually grateful that he knew the reason, and he'd been going around telling some of his neighbours why it happened that way, and they hope they sort it soon, but they understand the reason. So I just wanted to praise Wyre for being able to get the message out there, to know what was going on and why. Obviously that message didn't get to everyone. I did see some social media complaints as well, but in difficult circumstances I think the team did very well.
Thank you. I mean, we suffered from the pandemic and we just suffered from COVID. I mean, a lot of our refuse collectors went down with it straight away. We were getting in agency workers, we were working around it. As you know, we were picking up bins the next day or the day after if possible, but we always had the grey bins taken away. We never defaulted on that. Alan Fischel was just, his work, he was a Trojan, unbelievable, and we managed to keep the bins collected. And I think you're right, I think most people are reasonable. I mean, in these difficult times, you know, everybody's doing their best, and I think most people are, like say, like taxi driver, sort of like frustrating, but we know why this is happening. But we're getting on top of it and sorting it out. Fortunately now we're on top of it, and we hope we carry on as before.
Councillor Fair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to power 4.1, changing places, toilet facilities, please can you inform members the locations being considered and how this will be now taken forward? If Jubilee Gardens in Cleveland is an option, then can I ask that the Jubilee Councillors and Friends of Jubilee Gardens are involved, as there is the potential to deliver part of the Jubilee Gardens master plan at the same time as providing a facility that many will appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, could I write you, because I'd like to give you the full details. I can't give you now, but I'll be happy to tell you about what our thinking is, where we're looking at, why we're looking at, and then maybe we can have a discussion about Jubilee Gardens anyway.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Right.
Councillor Beavers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Matthew Vincent has already got the answers to the questions I was going to ask.
How wonderful, thinking together. Councillor Catrell.
Cross-party coordination, that's what I like to see.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just say a big thank you to Alan Fitzpatrick and his team. I had cause to email him because some residents in 2 streets in Great Egg were complaining that they hadn't had the street cleaner down. And the very day after, Merrill's sweep porter came along and swept those streets and swept the whole village. So thank you very much for that.
They're nothing if not proactive. I'll pass it on. Thanks.
That concludes the consideration of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to item D, Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holder. Councillor Collinson, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my report is before you, and I'm willing to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Collinson? I believe it's Councillor George first.
It isn't. I put my hand up on the wrong person.
Oh. And you've not made a question of that.
Councillor, make one up on the spot if you want me to.
Only kidding. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is regarding the Bernays pub. Shockingly, a planning application to demolish the Bernays pub has now been approved. The pub has been successfully listed following an application in April this year, but following an appeal, the pub was delisted on the 3rd of September. Now, you may be asking yourself, how can it have been listed by Wyre and then delisted by Wyre? What's changed over the summer months? There was, of course, a report paid for by the developer, and much to everybody's surprise, presenting a case for the developer's wish to demolish. In reality, the answer is absolutely nothing has changed. It should still be listed. Why credence has been given to the developer's report without giving the Protect the Bernays Group the opportunity to counter some of their dubious assertions is a question this council needs to seriously look into. If the listing decision had been upheld, the developer would have been able to appeal, but bizarrely, the group who requested the listing have now not got a right to appeal, only the option of a costly judicial review. This seems somewhat lopsided in favour of developers. It's disappointing that Wyre Council doesn't pay any attention to ensuring certain properties are listed. In this case, we have a long-standing Thornton pub that has fallen on bad times. But it has the ability to bounce back, with hundreds of houses being built within several hundred yards of the pub, and the increasing likelihood of Bernays Holt railway station reopening in the near future. The pub has a bright future, if only it was given the opportunity. Instead, it seems some profiteers would rather demolish and build 24 flats on this site. They have no interest in the needs of the
Councillor
local people.
Can I just stop you there? It is not coming under planning policy and economic development. It's just under the development side. So Councillor Collinson will not be answering that.
I don't have that information.
It's not under her
Sorry,
portfolio.
Councillor Fell, just to help in terms of clarification, when the leader announced his new cabinet and the changes as a result of appointments at County Hall, it was specifically changed to planning policy and economic development only, with matters that relate to planning applications, etc., should be directed to either the chairman of planning committee or really in the first instance to Mr. Thau, who is the head of planning services who deals with service matters.
So I can ask, who is responsible in the cabinet for this? Because I think this needs to be dealt with by elected members.
Nobody.
You can't have nobody responsible for planning.
No, you have to understand planning to understand why. There's no portfolio holder is responsible for the situation that Rob's on about.
Sorry, just to help, the leader's quite right on that, and for quite a number of years perhaps we didn't get it right, but actually the planning committee are obviously judicial and make decisions in their own right, and matters and questions should be directed in the first instance to the head of service, and that's why the change is now planning policy and economic development.
I'll just finish off then by saying I think we should all be appalled at the lack of interest in the area's heritage, and I think this council needs to take more interest in it and actually stop such developments. It's absolute outrage. We've got a fantastic future for that area of Bernays and nobody's doing anything about it. I'm appalled.
So that concludes the consideration of the planning policy and economic development portfolio holders report. We will now move on to item E, Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio. Councillor Berry, will you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take any questions. My report is before members.
Are there any questions or comments? I believe Councillor George, this might be the item for you.
I do have a question this time. After reading a post on social media by one of our members about policing in Wyre, I'm concerned that the Chief Inspector of Police would say that the area is not policeable. Could you please confirm if this is or is not the case?
I think, in fairness, Councillor, that the Inspector for Fleetwood has in fact sent you an email clarifying the situation, and he didn't know who had said those words to you or to other people. Fleetwood is certainly policeable. Can I just sort of go through the background to this so that it's absolutely clear what we're talking about? We talked about an emergency calls. I think you raised the question of an emergency call. An emergency 999 call is usually answered by the call centre at Hutton within 9 seconds, and the response teams should be on the scene on an average of 9 minutes. The Lancashire Police have a good record in responding to 999 calls. So I don't think there's an issue with response team officer provision in Wyre. I think they do attend to those emergencies. I think there has been a shortage of officers as being within Wyre's neighbourhood policing teams, dealing with daily policing issues within neighbourhoods, which includes ASB. These team numbers have been reduced over the years. Officers have been transferred or promoted or gone out of the district and have just not been replaced. And the same goes for PCSOs. Many have gone training to be police officers in this and other forces. Sadly, officers have been transferred in other areas of Lancashire, and I think it's fair to say a lot of those have gone into the East Lancs area to the detriment of places like Wyre. Within the last 12 months, this shortage became very, very obvious. I raised the issue with the previous Police and Crime Commissioner. I mentioned this at full council on many occasions, and I've also mentioned it to the new Commissioner. And the Chief Executive will have discussed this issue also with the incoming, the new Chief Constable. So everyone at the top is aware of the situation in Wyre, and I'm very pleased to say that it's obvious from the email that you received from this Inspector that we will have 3 new police officers and 3 additional PCSOs in Wyre. So I think that speaks volumes as to the need that we did have and that have arisen over the previous years, and that's good news. The question, of course, is in the meantime, have any others left? And I need a conversation with the Inspector about this to make sure that we've had people coming in, but others haven't gone out. I was hoping to discuss this with him at the Community Safety Partnership meeting last week, but unfortunately he wasn't able to attend for family reasons. So I'm going to have to take it up with him at a later stage. But what I've said not only applies to Fleetwood, but it applies to all areas of Wyre. It's not just Fleetwood issue. It's an issue throughout Wyre, has been an issue throughout Wyre. I hope that deals with the question adequately for you. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Matthew Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was privy to a delightful video by Andrew Snowden in the last couple of days, announcing he's starting to make good on his promise to open at least one new police station in each borough in Lancashire, and it's starting with Clitheroe. I just wanted to ask the portfolio holder, first of all, supports this policy to keep opening these new police stations in these areas, and more specifically, whether you will be pressing the Police and Crime Commissioner to open one in Wyre as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think this is good news. I mean, I think it's obvious from my conversations and listening to the new Commissioner that he's very much into community policing. We've mentioned about neighbourhood policing, but also he's obviously keen to see that we do have some police presence in the community, which I think has been sadly missing. I mean, just going back to Wyre's situation, we do have a great police station at Fleetwood, which has a place where the public can lodge issues with the police. We don't have any police provision of desks or anything like that in either Thornton or Cleveleys. Here at Poulton, we do have some rooms that are used as an operational base only by the police, and the same goes to Garstang. I think the Garstang police station is used as an operational base only for the teams that look after us, but they are based in Lancaster. And of course there's no provision whatsoever over Wyre, which is a growing area. So yes, I do want to see something. I think there's an argument as to what it's going to be. Is it just going to be a desk, or is it going to be a desk plus a base? I think we need to have that conversation. I shall be looking at the police and crime panels, the commissioners' police and crime plan with other members of the panel next week. So I'll find out some further details of what he's proposing. But I think we're going to have probably a bit of a beauty contest from what I've said as to which area will be appropriate to have these additional facilities. And I think we need to have that conversation between members and officers as to what will be the best for Wyre. But I've certainly pressed the point. Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Councillor Berry. Firstly, I'd just like to follow up on my comments from the last full council meeting. It was really good to see just last week on social media Lancashire Police using a drone to locate and apprehend alleged criminals. I think this really should be the way forward in dealing with antisocial behaviour amongst other issues. Touchy subject this one, but I do feel I have to raise it. Over the last decade, Fleetwood's seen many new faces arriving from many parts of the UK, Europe and further afield. Some have settled into the community, others have chosen to move closer to the cities chasing work. We are proud to say that we've always been a welcoming town. In recent years we've seen a number of Syrian refugee families homed, and with the help of this council, the Salvation Army, local churches etc., they've largely settled within the community. We now hear that Afghan refugees will also be welcomed by this council, a wonderful gesture yet again. Unfortunately, whilst we await to hear what the process will be, a rather large number of asylum seekers have appeared, mostly young men, seemingly being housed by Serco in houses of multiple occupancy, with rather large financial gains for private landlords. Who are these young men? Who and what are they running from, and what is the vetting process? In short, what we'd like to know is what's the process for housing and providing for both Afghan refugee families, and I'm presuming there will be families, and asylum seekers who are mostly arriving illegally across the channel, many without documents, as I feel it must be realised that there is a major difference between the two. Many residents on my ward and beyond have expressed concerns, and I must say that I too share the same concerns, being a father of 2 children currently at high school and 3 grandchildren just starting out in life. We appear to be very reluctant to recognise the difference in cultures, and with a number of reports of young girls being followed and worse in recent weeks, I fear there will be worse to come. I've lived amongst some of these cultures over many years, so I do speak from experience, and I feel that our ignorance now will lead to our downfall in years to come. I would ask members, when they have a moment, to perhaps Google Bachabazi, or in layman's terms, Man Love Thursday, to give you just one example of such culture. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can I just say that the government, as you're aware, has requested local authorities to assist with the resettlement of those having to leave Afghanistan. Authorities in Lancashire have always worked together on previous resettlement schemes, and today I've been informed that an Afghan resettlement Lancashire group has been set up to ensure a consistent and coordinated approach across Lancashire. Wyre will obviously be represented on that group by officers who are fully aware of our low percentage numbers of social housing and private rented properties compared with other local authorities in Lancashire, and also the pressures on schools and medical and health provision in the area. To be quite honest, I have not yet discussed this matter with Cabinet colleagues, but I understand it will be an agenda item on the Management Board meeting next Wednesday. So I can't really give you any facts or figures, because obviously no decision or no discussion has even taken place between members of the Cabinet. The information that we are getting is that as regards Afghanistan, the people coming over are those that have directly assisted our armed forces, or they have supported democratic values, our democratic values in Afghanistan, including judges, journalists, people who have stood up for women's rights and religious communities. So they are people of some substance and some education. They will obviously, I'm sure, be speaking English, so they are completely different to those that have come over in the past. And quite frankly, I think we should be welcoming them in our community, because they have helped our service members, many of whom have come from our area and many of whom who've died over in Afghanistan. And I think they would like to think that we are supporting them. And I think we should go forward and say these are people who really do merit our support. We will, of course, look after the interests of Wyre at all times. Officers are aware of our situation. We will do our best to make sure that any arrangements we come to will be satisfactory to the existing residents of Wyre and the incoming people from Afghanistan. We want them to be welcome. We want you to be happy with the arrangements we're making. And I feel that they will be able to give us added value to our community. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, I'm sorry, but you won't be able to ask a question. We've gone over the 10 minutes. That concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to item F, Leisure, Health and Community Engagement. Councillor Bowen, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All I want to add is that I want to give a big thank you to the community engagement team for the fantastic work they did on the activity and food programme. Myself and the Mayoress went for a morning to Thornton to watch what was going on, and it was absolutely fantastic. The kids were loving it. There were so many different events for them to do, and they were all like working together in various things, and yeah, really enjoying it. So that's all I have to add.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Bowen? I believe Councillor Matthew Vincent is first.
Mark it down. First of all, Councillor, I'm the chattiest Vincent in the room. I just wanted to make a comment, really. We've obviously not being able to use the pool at Fleetwood has affected us as a you know, obviously I do live in Fleetwood, and we were actually just starting to use the pool with our young daughter just when COVID hit at the wrong time. So it's frustrating, though we understood why the pool had to close. I have to say, since we've gone back to using the pool in the last several weeks, on a Saturday and Sunday, it's been incredibly encouraging to see the shape that the facilities are in, how busy it is. It certainly seems to be well supported, and I just wanted to pass on my experience that it seems to be running well, and we're certainly enjoying the facilities at the moment.
Yeah, thank you for that. The pools actually have been very busy this summer, probably because it's been so hot, but also because people, I think, now realise if you don't use it, they'll lose it. So yeah, we're really pleased about the amount of people that are using them now. Thank you.
Councillor Lynch. Leach, sorry. I'm renaming you now as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Yeah, one comment and one question. My comment, first of all, is to say thank you to the communications that your department's been having with our social media team. It's been great over the summer to see everything the council is doing. We have a lot of good news stories, and it's a way in modern times to be able to communicate with our residents. So well done for promoting everything on the social media. And the questions were around the holiday club. From what I could glean, it looked successful. Do we know roughly, were the attendance in line with our expectations? And is there any way of measuring the effectiveness and the families that came, whether it was a worthwhile experience for them? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll pass on your comments for the community engagement, and also they were 100% occupied. All those events, what they had, and the majority of them were for children that had free school meals. Although some of the children could also attend, with them through paying as well. But it was so successful that we're looking at trying to repeat it in the Christmas holidays. So hopefully that'll go ahead.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Councillor Bowen. It's great to see our leisure centres performing well, as expected. Also, the welcome news of Polden Leisure Centre reopening. We've also seen large numbers of visitors enjoying the borough throughout the summer months too. So it does sadden me to have to speak of the fiasco we witnessed with Silcock's travelling fairground. Whilst I appreciate it's the responsibility of Mr Silcock to find a suitable place and apply through licensing, this is a long-standing relationship dating back much further than my lifetime. This council was aware well in advance that the preferred location for Mr Silcock's fun fair wasn't going to be viable. With this in mind, I feel quite strongly that considering the tradition and long-standing relationship, this council could have been more proactive in dealing with the issue. I will admit that there was a response once this problem was raised, and we did manage to get one fairground ride into Fleetwood, but it was reactive. The understanding must be there that a travelling fairground works on slots available with very little, if any, wriggle room. We currently have a task group set up for the recovery of tourism in the borough. Would Councillor Bowen agree that getting the basics right would be a good starting point? Fleetwood alone has again had no carnival, no tram Sunday, and now we hear that the fireworks display organised by Fleetwood Rotary Club will not go ahead. What message is this council sending out? I was in Blackpool Saturday for the first week of the fireworks, which incidentally are due to continue for the duration of the illuminations, and it was buzzing. It has been all summer. Perhaps we could learn a thing or two from our neighbours. It's my belief that being proactive rather than reactive would be the difference between being just a council or a bloody good council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, as you know, everything's been curtailed this summer because of COVID, and as far as the Silcock's fairground was concerned, the land where it usually goes, which is a larger piece of land, was the NHS were using it, so it was completely out of the question for us to use that piece of land. Chris Wyatt worked really hard trying to find another piece of land. He looked at various sites and couldn't find anywhere. Eventually they came up with a piece of land that they could actually use. So I can't really see why you can complain, because, like I say, he worked really hard to try and get that fairground going, even though it was on a smaller scale than usual. I don't know why the firework display has been cancelled. I didn't know anything about that. But all I can say is all the events from earlier in the summer, we've worked really hard to try and get events, but obviously we're a small borough, we're not like Blackpool. We haven't got all the areas that Blackpool can use, and so we've done our best. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say congratulations and thank you to Wyre, the officers and all the volunteers who made Garstang Walking Festival the successful and well supported event that it was at the end of August. So thank you very much for that. So I'd just like that to be noted. And I have a question for you. Do you have the participation figures, please, for the individual leisure centres in the borough? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad the walking festival was so successful. People were really ready to go walking and get out in the countryside, and it just goes from strength to strength every year. I've got the participation figures. The Fleetwood Dry was 3,130 to the end of August, which was slightly down, but I think it was because people were away on holiday, and so the figures were slightly down for the dry side. The pool did very well. There were 16,820 visits during August, which is a fantastic amount. Thornton, 22,031 participation figures for August. Garstang Dry, 3,579, and the pool, 3,750, which are all pretty good figures for the summer.
Thank you.
That concludes the consideration of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make their comments or ask questions on the reports of their colleagues. Do any Cabinet members wish to do so, ladies and gentlemen? Councillor Michael Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a question for the leader, and it's about leadership and fitness to govern, if I may. Councillor Henderson, if you'd been a Wyre councillor for 6 years, if during that 6 years every amendment that was brought forward at full council required a seconder, every time you propose an amendment to the minutes, which is 90% of the meetings you attend, full council anyway, you require a seconder, and only those present can vote on it. Do you agree that a fit and capable leader would have had the foresight to ensure you had a seconder at this meeting?
A simple yeah. And to add to it, if I do anything like that at all, I make sure well in advance that the basics are met, that I've got a seconder and they meet the criteria.
Any other comments or questions? No? Moving on.
Yeah.
That concludes the consideration of the Executive Report. We will now move on to Agenda Item 8, Lead Member for Older People. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. The recommendation at 3.1 is that Councillor Warren to be appointed to the role of Lead Member for Older People until the elections in May 23. And I've got the feeling that what we are just going through and hopefully coming to the end of, that Lynn will actually be very busy with quite a few older persons, literally who live on their own, contacting her and asking to be either signposted to groups or to other individuals. So recommendation 3.1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there a seconder for the proposal?
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Are there any comments, questions or amendments? The Can we go straight to the vote, please? Those for? Everybody? That's that word. Everybody's been approved. Thank you. That leads us to the end of the meeting. So thank you for your attendance this evening. It's been nice to see you all again, and hopefully we will grow in this chamber as the forthcoming months come on. Keep safe, take care. Thank you.